Nita here. We'll continue reading the meaning of receiving the holy wine.
What is inside the holy wine? It has an ingredient that symbolizes parents' love. Also, it has to have something in it that symbolizes blood. Accordingly, when you drink that, you become one body with parents' love and one body with parents' blood. Then how is the holy wine made? It is wine which is made from ingredients that symbolizes the earth, the seas, and heaven, and symbolizes the whole cosmos. In the holy wine, there are 3 kinds of alcohol. Now, I know I read this yesterday.
Yeah. I heard you read that.
Besides that, it has an ingredient which symbolizes all things.
I think you read it again.
The fact of drinking this means that one is being born spiritually and physically. If this ceremony did not exist, original sin could not be removed and the lineage could not be converted. Without converting the blood lineage, one cannot become one body with God's love by passing through the standard of perfection. The holy wine ceremony is the ceremony which indemnifies all of this. The holy wine contains all the essential elements of things which are without Satan's accusation. If some person does an act that defiles him after receiving, and we're now turning to page 480, receiving the holy wine and becoming one with the true parents, he comes to stand in a position more fearful than Satan. Satan defiled and violated the perfection level of the growth stage. But if a person who receives the blessing makes a mistake, he commits the sin of treason against God's substance in the perfection level of the perfection stage. Therefore, the person will not be forgiven through eternity. That is truly a fearful thing. In the holy wine, there is the flesh and blood of parents. The holy wine is the wine of love, the wine of husband, and the milk of mother. It represents the word of life, the blood of parents, and the manifestation of all glory, and the love of bridegroom and bride. And it contains in it the life force of the Father. With the holy wine, I am giving out the substance of the Father's heart and blood lineage. Through it, I am giving out the life force and forming a connection of blood. I gave out the holy wine in order to cleanse the body's defilement and bring it into God's blood lineage. The holy wine results from the substantial marriage, 2 parents, hung-sung marriage, the 36 couples, and symbolic marriage, the 72 couples. The process of restoration went through Cain and Abel, Esau and Jacob, Perez and Zerah. But for original restoration, one has to set a condition of having gone through Jesus' body. One must come to stand in a position like having been born through the womb of true mother. After having passed through Adam to Jesus and arriving at the second coming, one must stand in the position of having been born at the same instant as a baby born from mother. The holy wine, which is made of 21 ingredients representing all things and levels, is given to the wife first. At the fall, Satan first tempted Eve, and then Adam was lost. Therefore, we first establish the restored woman in a position to find the man. The man receives the wine representing parents' flesh and blood through the wife. By drinking this wine in this way, he comes to stand in the position of having passed through the internal body of mother and makes the indemnity condition for the separation from Satan. This time is the time as when an innocent young bachelor first enters the room of his bride. We must achieve the purpose of love by centering on God and left and right becoming one. Even Yu Hu Wang did not know one of the meanings of this wine. Drinking this wine has a meaning equivalent to Jesus saying that one who drinks the water of life will have eternal life. Your existence before and after the moment you drink is entirely different. Drinking this wine is more important than husband and wife making love relations. This wine represents the connection of life. This wine represents the original core of life. After this ceremony, we're reading now from page 481. There should not be any falsehood. You should not ask about the past. From now on, become a couple who lives to fulfill the blessing. We're now reading from number 4, the position of man and woman in restoration. You are men and women representing the whole world. In this ceremony, the woman is on the side of God, who is the owner, and the man is on the side of Satan. Since this is so, actually men should not stand on the right side, but women should. However, Father is in a different position. The original sin came about by the archangel and Eve marrying, right? Therefore, it must be restored through marriage. Since it came about by Eve marrying the archangel, it should be restored through marriage with Adam. For Adam to marry, who has to be there? Eve has to be there. Should the archangel or Eve marry first? Eve should marry first. Why? Because Eve is meant to be Adam's wife. She has to marry first. The archangel was supposed to take care of everything until Eve married, to pray for her good fortune, perform all the duties of a servant, and then marry. If a servant does all the duties of a servant, the child can go up to and plead to the parents and plead, Father, it is not good for the servant to be alone and lonely, so please give him a spouse. And then the servant can marry. But before that, he cannot. Do you understand? Then for Eve to marry, her husband has to be on this earth. So who is that husband? The coming of Christ. If that Christ comes and marries Eve, what should happen? What should the people around them do? Should the archangel cry and be unhappy? No, Father has said in parenthesis that he should be happy. Before Christ came, women were laboring as archangels' wives. But when the Christ comes, the archangel loses his bride to him. Right? Even if that happens, should the archangel cry and complain? The women of the Unification Church are walking this restoration path. Then on whose side are the women of the Unification Church? How much do you have to long for Father? You must long for Father more than for your wife or your husband. Shouldn't you love your father and mother more than you love your husband and wife? After first giving your parents all your love, you should then love your wife, husband, and children. Shouldn't that be the case? That is why you must love your heavenly parents more than you love anybody else. For you men, any other loves are not allowed. If you are not even born, how can you talk about love? You are in a position of not even being born. If you do not know the parents, it is the same situation as not being born. The fallen women have attended 2 husbands, isn't that right? Eve received the archangel as her husband spiritually, and Adam as her husband physically. So how many husbands are there? 2. That is why, in order for women to restore the fall, they have to meet 2 husbands. Without doing that, we now turn to page 482. They cannot accomplish restoration. Thus, you have 2 men, father and your husband. You are in the same situation as one woman having to attend 2 husbands. That is your course of restoration. Today, all women who believe in the Unification Church and want to be saved are brides who have come to look for the bridegroom. Therefore, with whom are they supposed to be one? They have to become one with the coming Christ. They have to become one with Adam and one with God. I understand that I am speaking of the spiritual oneness centered on God. God is visible. So he created Adam as his Hoon son. Do you understand? And in the same way now, Father is appearing as God's Hoon son. Since there was a spiritual fall, Father is doing the work of resurrection spiritually. Accordingly, if the women of the Unification Church give effort and pray hard, they will relate to Father as their elder brother. And again, if they make even more effort spiritually, they will have engagement rings fitted on their fingers, receive bouquets of flowers, and there will be wedding matches. There must be people who have had this kind of spiritual experience. Those who have not had this spiritual experience are fake believers. Because of this experience, one can prepare a starting point to restore the fact that the progenitors of humanity fail with spiritual love. Through spiritual unity with Father, that love can be restored. This love also can reconcile the alienation between Adam and the archangel. Therefore, you men and women have been uniting centered on Father. In this way, a restored family is established. In this ceremony, you women are in the mother position spiritually. At this point, you must give birth to Adam again through spiritual love. Through the sin of the fallen Eve's spiritual love, Adam also fell spiritually. Therefore, by establishing the standard of restoring Adam spiritually, centered on God's love, and by connecting physically to Adam, whom you have made effort to restore, Adam becomes restored. Do you understand? Only by passing through this route can one begin to grow according to the original way of the principle.
Yeah, I can do only 15 minutes.
In order to restore, you must become a person who does things in the reverse way. At the time of the fall, the archangel gave to Eve, right? Next, Eve gave to Adam. Originally, Adam was supposed to dominate Eve with the authority of God's Son. And Eve, in the position of parents, was supposed to have given birth to humankind. We must restore that fundamental and original heart. Therefore, what is woman? She is mother. Looking from the principal viewpoint,